Hey guys, what's up? Zax here. Today we are here, more F1 2001 career mode. Today we are here in Austria, obviously for the Austrian Grand Prix, and it wasn't called the Red Bull Ring back then, it was called the A1 Ring, but it is predominantly the same track really. I guess it was probably slightly different in the way that they've sort of put some of the barriers back and that sort of stuff, but it's pretty much the same sort of track at the end of the day. And you can see obviously once again our Jordan, but the most surprising thing for me looking at this right now is John Lacey having the best time. All season really, when we've done qualifying, we've beaten him, and he's actually put in a really good lap time there, a 1 minute 10.8, quite early on in the session, and that's actually a really good lap time. But you can see we're 5 tenths up nearly on our best time here, and this is the trickiest corner on the track in my opinion, to select which gear you get right there. Sometimes you can put it down to first, get a great sort of exit off the corner, sometimes you can run around it in third, and I don't know, it's just weird, that corner. I don't know how, I've never really perfected it in a way. And these two corners here with the fastest, for the AI, with the fastest bits of the track, which we'll see in the race. But overall, I'd say a pretty decent lap. There are no really big errors, except, okay, as soon as we say that, we're going to make a little error like that. But nothing terrible. A pretty decent lap at the end of the day. It wasn't exactly fast, but it wasn't exactly terrible. So I'll take that as we cross the start-finish line here to do a 1 minute 11.6. So, yeah, 8 tenths down on our teammate. Not really what we'd want, but that's just it. At the end of the day, we're not always going to get the best results. So starting in 9th position here, we're ahead of Irvine, Villeneuve, Panis, but we have got our teammate Lacey up there in 6th place. So if he finishes there, that's in the points, which is good for him. You'd probably assume Montoya would be ahead of him. So skipping warm-up and getting to the race. And as I said, we have found a way to skip that sort of annoying sort of grid sequence, which is alright sometimes, but I think just to get into the race for me is the best part about it. So 9th place here, we've got a Prost actually to our right hand side, and a pretty decent start here, except from, I think that was Irvine? Was it Irvine stalling, I think, on the grid there? No, it wasn't Irvine, it was Barrichello, sorry. Getting my Ferrari drivers of past and present mixed up. And look at this, of all the things a Lacey could have done there, he goes and crashes into the inside wall. But I suppose it actually helps us out, because all the other AI slow down so much, it actually puts us up into 4th place here. So in a way, quite lucky for us that our teammate goes and sort of destroys everyone in the first turn. But you can see straight away we're onto the back of David Coulthard here and getting the power down. And in the slipstream here, actually looking quite good for an overtake here on David Coulthard. We switched to the inside up into P3. And now the big task of trying to catch up to Schumacher. We try and look down the inside, try and put him off, but obviously it's Michael Schumacher and he doesn't get scared of anything. So there we are, he is staying in his 2nd position here. But look at this, look how fast AI are through here. I'm not too sure it's physically possible for that Ferrari to be that fast through there. My car is so unstable if that is the fact, but wow, the Ferrari driver of Michael Schumacher getting nearly 2.5 seconds really out of that, and I don't know how really he can physically take that. And in a slight angle we go and corner cut that a little bit, but we'll just try and ignore that as we go around the final corner here to finish the first lap. And you can see 3 seconds to Michael Schumacher there. At this point I'm like, wow, there's no way I'm going to be able to stay up here because of that pace advantage that AI have at that part of the track. I'm like, wow, it's going to be pretty tough to keep up with them. But we've got David Coulthard nearly a second behind us here, so we've got a good sort of advantage at this part of the track here. We're very late on the brakes, we're good through this part of the track here, getting the car turned in, getting the power down very early as well. And you can see we sort of make up a second in that first sector there. So it's a bit annoying that we just had that 1 or 2 corners on this track where we're just so far behind. Look, we closed the gap here to about half a second, but we go a bit too fast into the corner, so it's already back up. But I don't know, I don't want to keep complaining, but how fast are they going through here? It's not possible for me and my Jordan, so I'm losing barrels of time through there. So I guess I'm just going to have to deal with that as the career mode goes on. The high speed corners, not really where the Jordan excels by the looks of it, but once again got Coulthard right up behind us here. And I do actually find these last 2 turns on this track, in this game, very hard actually, especially the last turn. I find it that you run out wide quite a bit. I find this actually a lot more challenging than in F1 2014, which is quite strange. It's a track I've always liked, and I've always sort of generally gone well at, but in this game I haven't done very well. And look at this, once again off at turn 1. Luckily not getting collected by Coulthard there, which would have been very embarrassing, because that would have meant a big spin and probably a big crash. But for us, keeping P3 is very, very good. And I like that part of the track there, just braking extremely late, putting it into first gear, clipping the apex, and overall I think that's probably my best part of the track there. And you can see once again, we close to Schumacher and actually end up pulling away from Coulthard there. About 2 seconds, we kind of slide it there a bit too fast. And once again, we lose that time at this part of the track. But when you look at the whole situation as a whole, I'm in 3rd position in Jordan, which is pretty good, not going to lie. And if we can just keep Coulthard behind, even if we can just stay in the top 5, that's some more solid points. Obviously, we've had some really good races recently. Obviously, in Spain with the podium, it was a really good sort of good way to end that race, I suppose. But in a way, I could have won that race, which is frustrating. So I do try and take the positives away from every single race, but it's kind of hard to ignore the fact that I could have easily got 2nd in that race, and I might have been able to get 1st, just depending on certain decisions throughout the race. But through turn 1 here, a bit too fast over the curves, but luckily we managed to keep it in a straight line. Schumacher is starting to pull that sort of gap up, sort of lap by lap. It's not that much if you look at the gap sort of every time I cross the start-finish line. I'm generally just losing a couple of temps, but it's through this first sector I'm just so fast once again. And you can see I've actually got a good 2-second gap over Coulthard now, so that's a nice buffer there. So I can just need to stick to this pace, and I've actually got a really good chance here actually staying in the top 3. And look, the front two are not that far in front, so if I can do something special through this middle sector here, I might, just a small possibility, might be able to keep with them for the rest of the lap and maybe go for an overtaking opportunity. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. There's still a good 2 seconds gap to Schumacher and obviously Hakkinen in the lead of this race. And that's actually I think one of the more surprising things about this race, really, that Hakkinen had the pace to be ahead of Michael here, which Michael's just been dominating this season, and it's nice to see Hakkinen actually take the challenge to him and make him, you know, work for this podium place here, 2nd place. And obviously the points changed in I think like 2004, something like that, where they went sort of 8 points for 2nd instead of 6, which was what it was in these days. But anyway, let's look at this. Turn 1, too much speed over the curve on the outside, and these are the little mistakes that I need to get rid of throughout this season. Just like, what am I doing here? It's like just doing a bit too much going into turn 1, taking a bit too much speed in. But we get the car sort of into first gear and away as quickly as possible, and I'm gonna have to sort of stop being like, this is the excuse for this, and you know, that sort of stuff now, because we're getting to that part of the season where I need to be not doing silly mistakes like that. But I'll let myself off on this one because we're still in 6th place here and it's still a point. But as I said, with the Spanish Grand Prix, I could have been on the podium. So try and look at the positives. The pace has been good throughout this race, but once again we let a little mistake like that get to us, which is a bit annoying. But I think that honestly shows how hard this game actually is. I know a lot of you guys, or I guess most of you guys, haven't actually played this game. It's actually really tricky with a wheel. When you shift down maybe a little bit too early, like just like instinctively you're shifting down the gears and you shift into say 2nd instead of when you should be in 3rd, just like a millisecond too early, the car loops round sometimes. But I think that mistake was really just going a bit too fast into turn 1 and getting all over the curbs and obviously spinning it around. But let's take the positives out of it. We're still in the points, and it's still going to be a solid position to finish in our Jordan. Obviously the Jordan, not really, looking back at the 2001 season, it wasn't really a race winner or looking like a race winner or anything. It got a couple of podiums, I remember correctly, but wasn't really up there all the time. So our points in most races is looking good for my season so far. I think we've got quite a decent amount of points so far this season, and just picking up 1 point here today in Austria would help me out a lot in the championship. And obviously, as my teammate Alesi is just not doing anything, we will have to sort of take the Constructors' Championship maybe not so seriously, because if we look at it, I'm the only person scoring points here. Alesi's crashing into people at turn 1, taking them out the race and not really helping me out at all, but that's just how it is. We've still got about a 5-second gap to Montoya, so that's not looking very likely we'll get him. But we pulled the gap up from Frentzen quite quickly, actually, didn't we? Look, he's up to about 3 seconds now, so as you can see, that part of the track, obviously it comes down quite a bit because that's where they're really good. But over the rest of the lap, it's about 3 seconds the gap, which I think shows that we have good pace here in Austria. Probably third or fourth, I'd say, was probably where we, you know, honestly should be on pace here. But that little mistake was costly. But I don't want to keep going on about it because overall, guys, it was a lot of fun. I think I definitely need to sort out the turn 1. I can see most laps I've made mistakes. I think braking a bit too late. In qualifying practice, I was doing it alright, but I think it's because I wasn't risking it. and I went into the race sort of wanting to risk it to get every 10th of a second, and it just didn't work out, you know, as shown in this race. I think like 4 or 5 times in this race after 7 laps we've gone off the track at turn 1, so that's something definitely to be looked at if we go on to a second season of it. But there are many other games that you guys want me to play, so I probably will get around to maybe doing one season on this and maybe doing more seasons on another game. We'll see. But here we are, final lap of the race. Braking a bit too late, onto the grass. I think a pretty nice save until the little spin here, but at least I don't crash like in Championship Edition and lose my front wheels or whatever. But yeah, I just went from 6th to 12th through that little mistake there. I so nearly caught it. It was just putting, I think, my rear right wheel onto the grass. It spun me around. I tried to correct it. I put a little bit too much steering correction in. And yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. Obviously, every race can't be perfect. And overall, I take away a lot of positives from this round because it was a pretty decent race in terms of pace. And yeah, this is my little reverse sort of donut thing, I don't know. So yeah, Hakkinen ended up winning it. As I said, I take a lot of positives away from it because it was, you know, good pace throughout, but costly mistakes put me outside the points, and as it should be, if I make mistakes I shouldn't be scoring points, and it's exactly what showed today. So there we are, Hakkinen, he takes the victory just ahead of Michael Schumacher, and we'll look at the final standings in a second here. He said that we finished 12th, but as we crossed the line, Montoya had, I think, a brake failure, as you can see there, at like the final turn. So unluckily for him, he dropped outside the points in the final lap, which actually would have meant if we kept in our position, we would have finished 5th, which is extra annoying, but that's just that. Luckily, none of our main contenders got points there, which is good. So we'll look at the standings in a second here, and we'll see that not really much has changed, because really at the end of the day the big guys still score points and we just pretty much stayed where we were, just behind Barrichello. But yeah, overall guys, pretty decent as you can see in the constructors. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's been Alex out here. Goodbye.